For a long time, I thought there was something wrong with me. I knew what I should do: go to the gym, study for exams, work on things that mattered. And yet, I kept putting them off. Not because I didn't care, but because starting felt strangely heavy. Recently, that changed. Not because I became more disciplined, but because I realized something important. Avoiding hard things has almost nothing to do with willpower. It's about how your brain reacts to discomfort. Once you understand that, you stop fighting yourself and things get easier. Most people think procrastination means laziness. But your brain doesn't avoid hard things because they're hard. It avoids them because they feel unsafe. Anytime you think about doing something difficult, your brain runs a quick calculation. How much effort will this take? How uncomfortable will this feel? What if I fail? And if the answer feels threatening, resistance shows up. That resistance usually comes in two forms. The first is emotional resistance. Think of your brain like a spoiled child. The moment something feels boring, stressful, or overwhelming, it complains. Suddenly, the task feels heavier than it actually is. You imagine how long it will take, how exhausting it will be, how much you don't feel like doing it right now. The task hasn't even started, but your brain is already tired. That's not weakness. That's prediction. Your mind is visual. It zooms out to the entire journey and reacts to the size of it. Writing one sentence doesn't feel scary. Writing an entire book does. Studying one problem feels manageable. Studying for an entire exam does not. So the bigger the task feels in your mind, the stronger the resistance becomes. This is why the most effective strategy is shrinking the start. Don't tell yourself you're going to finish the workout. Tell yourself you'll do one set. Don't tell yourself you'll study all night. Tell yourself you'll open the book and read one page. Lower the psychological cost of starting. When the goal becomes small, your brain relaxes. The emotional resistance drops. And once you're moving, staying in motion becomes easier. Often, the hardest part was never the work. It was convincing your brain to begin. There's another trick that works surprisingly well. Don't try to do the hard thing. Just get ready for it. Put on the gym clothes. Open the laptop. Lay out the notebook. No commitment. No pressure. Just preparation. What usually happens is simple. Once you're ready, not starting feels more uncomfortable than starting. Momentum doesn't begin with effort. It begins with proximity. The second type of resistance is more subtle and more powerful. It's ego resistance. Your brain doesn't just protect your comfort. It protects your identity. Every one of us has an internal image of who we are. Smart, capable, talented, disciplined. Hard things threaten that image. Because failure doesn't just feel bad, it feels personal. If I try and fail, what does that say about me? So instead of risking damage to our self-image, the brain chooses avoidance. No attempt. No failure. No threat. This is why people avoid things they care about the most. Forcing yourself through ego resistance rarely works. Pressure turns effort into a threat. What actually helps is removing the judgment. When you stop treating performance like a test, resistance softens. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is this. Stop focusing on how well you're doing and start focusing on being engaged. Treat difficult things like practice, or learning, or even a game. When the goal becomes participation instead of perfection, your brain stops defending itself. There's also a language shift that makes a bigger difference than most people realize. The way you talk to yourself shapes what your brain allows you to do. If you say, "I need to get in shape," your brain hears, "I'm not someone who works out," and it resists. But if you say, "I'm someone who works out," the action suddenly aligns with your identity. This isn't about lying to yourself. It's about aligning identity with behavior, not outcomes. You don't become disciplined first. You act in small, disciplined ways, and the identity follows. None of these strategies are meant to trick your brain forever. They're meant to help you start consistently. And consistency changes everything. When you take action regularly, progress becomes visible. Progress creates confidence. Confidence reduces resistance. Eventually, the thing that once felt heavy becomes familiar. and familiar things don't scare the brain anymore. That's the real goal. Not forcing yourself to do hard things, but building a system where hard things stop feeling threatening. If you try any of these strategies, start small. Shrink the task. Prepare instead of committing. Remove judgment. Align your identity with action. And if you found other ways to work with your brain instead of against it, share them in the comments. I'll see you in the next video.